In the first section of the lead guitar style of Junior Barnard, we're going to take a look at his blues influences. If you're following along on the PDF, I started off by listing the minor pentatonic scale as well as some of the common notes he adds. If you look at the first part, we just have in our normal G minor pentatonic position, as I'm sure y'all are most familiar with. That's the basic. Now we're going to add some common notes he uses. We've got the major third and the major sixth. And in the low octave, I didn't list it in the PDF because he doesn't really use them in the low octave too much. I listed them more in the high octave, as we'll see in some of the examples later on. This is what that will sound like, adding the major third and major sixth. Okay, so now that we have that, let's take a look at that just a little more of what notes we're exactly adding. So if we start on this G here at the 5th fret, we've got G, B flat, that's our minor third, which comes up to our major third. There's B, C's next, D, there's our 5th. Here comes our major 6th, the E, our 7th, which is F, our 1, or a root, which is G, our A, which is our 9, here's our flat third, B flat, and here we go back to the major third and B. So we have 2 octaves of that. I'm sorry, 1 octave of that. Now most of the notes and licks that Junior Barnard has that we'll be looking at in this section use those grouping of notes. So it would be a good idea just to play through those and get familiar with them. Now the next part of his kind of blues playing are little half note bends as well as quarter note bends. And if you're looking on the common bend section, which is right underneath the traditional blues note choice, the minor pentatonic on the PDF, we've got, starting on the 9 or the A, little bend, and that can either be a full half step, A to B flat, or just a little nudge up. You don't have to be too specific about it. So we've got resolving to the G there, then we go to the 6, which is the E here, we've got the same thing. So he's bending that up to an F, or in between if you're doing kind of a quarter note bend. And right here, this one everyone knows, that's bending the C up, coming down to the B flat, and we're ending on G. That is kind of the lick in itself, and those are kind of the common bends that we're going to hear in these examples. So to recap, we've got our minor pentatonic with our added major third and major sixth notes. And then our bends. Let's take a look at example 1. I call this one the junior kick. I'll give us 4 counts up front and then pickups, and then I'll play the lick and we'll talk about it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so this is a cool lick. It's a common Junior Barnard kick. We're coming in on this G major triad, G, B, D. And we're just kind of, I do a little rake where I take my pick and just go like that. All downstrokes, and then I'm coming up to the E here and bending it up a half step, like we just talked about with our bends. So we've got, and that is a full half step. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4. On the and of 4, we're coming down to the D, and then coming right back up on beat 1 of the next bar to this 5, we're going to do a half step bend, and come right back down and come to the E. So essentially we're going, but with this we're going 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, that's a common group of notes he typically does. We have the D, the C, the G. And that's the 5, the 4, and the 1. And then a little half step or quarter bend right here on this B flat. So that last bar there of example 1 is 1, 2, 3, 4. And he likes to throw those triplets in there. That's definitely a Junior Barnardism. So one more time, example 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's go to example 2. We have our descending pattern. This is kind of reminiscent of the common bends we started off with. We're just going to do it a little faster and throw a lot of triplets in. So this one's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Alright, so to break that down, a common little Junior Barnard jumping off point, as well as any kind of swing era guitar jumping off point for that matter. We've got D, E, G, that's our 5, 6, 1. And then here comes our common bends. And we're just bending up this A a half step or a quarter, then coming back down to the A, and then to the G. And we're going to follow that pattern across the first, second, and third strings. So we've got, and then we're going to do 5, 3, 5. And then we've got 1 and 2. Kind of just like a swing era ending, or Charlie Christianism. We've got D, D, G, and then sliding from this 3 to 4. So that triplet run into that ending has got 1, 2, 3, 4. The whole lick one more time, our descending pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Now let's move on to example 3, targeting the major third. Now we're kind of breaking out of just our blues box and specifically looking at some major notes. This is reminiscent of going back to the traditional blues note choice at the beginning and adding that major third and major sixth. We're now targeting those notes. So this one's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Alright, so to break this down, we've got a little triplet intro. We're hammering from the minor third to the major third. There's that adding the major third. And then we're coming up to the fifth right here, this E. Half step bend, 5, 3. That common Junior Barnardism we've seen in the last 2 licks. And then a common little blues lick here where we have 5, hammer on 3 to 4, and it kind of answers itself. Blues licks that answer itself. So we've got, and then on the and of 4, we have this. 1, 2, 3, 4. What this is, we can either hammer on or slide. Again, that minor third to major third, targeting that note. Coming up to the D on the 3rd fret. Sliding 5 to 6. Then coming to the G. Targeting the major third again. And coming back to the low G. A lick that answers itself. So 1, 2, 3, 4. In all these cases, to get that major third, we're either hammering onto it, or sliding onto it, or encompassing it, going above, below, major third, or 4, flat third, 3. So one more time, example 3, targeting the major third. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Alright, let me flip the sheet here and we'll get to example 4. This is targeting the major third part 2. And this lick is cool. He does it quite a bit. It is, I believe, a Charlie Christian lick from some of the stuff I've studied from Charlie Christian. What we do is we're going to target the upper major third, this B right here. So let me play it for you, and we'll break it down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so we're starting with our common little jumping off point. So that's just 5, 6, 1, 6 in scale numbers, or you could do D, E, G, E. Then we have that interval, tritone, which is a cool little thing to do. That's our minor third, up to our major third. Then back to our G and our E. So that first little first bar is, again, it's answering itself. It's coming up, then going down. And now we're going to target the octave below major third. So we've got just coming up this little fragment of our chord shape we've been playing out of here. We've got 3 to 4, 3, 3, 5, 3. Or minor third, major third, 5th, root. And we've got our 6 and our 5. So again, it's cool to make a lick that takes our minor third and major third and toys around with them in both octaves. So one more time through example 4, targeting the major third. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. In example 5, we're going to talk about turnarounds. This is another signature part of tunes that Junior Barnard really shines on and really has, I think, his own stuff to say that he's contributed to the Western swing guitar. These are going to be bluesy turnarounds. So we're thinking over a D7 chord, the 5 chord of G. Think of a blues turnaround. So 2 bars of D7, and then we're coming back to a G. So this one sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so to break that down, for those players who are coming from a blues background, you should know this as your BB box, or kind of your Stevie Ray Vaughan box there. And what we're doing is taking our D, we're going to start with the E here, bend it up a half step, and then use our pinky and drop it on the A, and then bend it up again, and come down to our C, which is the flat 7 of D7. And then on the and to 4, doing this cool double stop here, reminiscent of Charlie Christian, and then playing down pentatonics here. And then on the and 4 there, we're going to hit this G. So this first 2 bars over the D7, it's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. comes with resolving to the G. So from the end of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a common lick he does here. We have G, and we're going to come 2 to 3, G, 3 to 4, G, 4 to 5, back to G, hammer on, 3 to 4, up to 3. So we're just playing around with the blues scale here. We've got. Now I'm doing that all with my first finger. Sometimes I'll use my second finger on the last one to slide. And that outlines that G very nicely. So again, example 5, turnarounds. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. In this last example, we're going to take a look at one more turnaround, kind of based off the previous one in example 5, but adding a few more triplet-styled rhythms and a few more blues notes. Here's how it will sound. A 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so to break that down, we're starting again, this kind of blues box here for the 5 chord. And we're going to bend up this to the F, the E to the F. And we're playing a triplet of approaching that B note here from the B flat. So 1 and triplet, and then back up to the D, then back up to bending. So we've got. Then our second bar. Again, he really likes landing on that flat 7 for these turnarounds. Really emphasizes the change quite nicely. So those first 2 over the D7, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're coming in to approach the G chord with our cool little Junior Barnard up the triad lick and the triplets. So 5, 4, 3, then to a double stop. That cool bluesy double stop, and then to the G. So right on beat 4 will be 1, 2, 3. And that last little lick, just bending up 5, coming back down to 3, bending that 3 up a quarter, resolving to the G. Sorry. And that's a nice little turnaround. So with all of these licks, I would vamp a blues and try putting them in and then displacing them around the progression and see how does this G lick sound over the C7, the 4 chord. That's going to help you a lot with just getting a lot of bang for your buck with these licks. Also experiment with taking just a little chunk of it. For instance, take the very common approach like that, and then take one more little chunk, maybe this little, and combine those two and experiment with it. You might do something with a little repetition, or you might start and have fun with that and try and get that kind of stuff into your playing in addition to all these licks.